This is Just a Thought, a podcast for parents wanting to change their mind and change their lives. This is your host, Christina Stead, and this is episode number 47, The Overworked Mom. Hey there. Listen to this thought. Self-sacrifice leads to death. Just think about the name. This is a quote from Bianca from Motherhood Empowerment. She sent an email recently that struck me as extremely important. Here are a couple of excerpts that stood out to me, and I quote, "Have you ever heard a story about postpartum psychosis? Today I watched one of the most heartbreaking documentaries I've ever seen. It was about postpartum psychosis, and more specifically, about a mother that killed her 3 children. I know it's incredibly negative and makes you feel physically ill, but postpartum psychosis is a topic that is usually ignored, but must be discussed, especially by us, the moms who stay home and are with our kids almost all the time. We must discuss the horrors of motherhood, right alongside the beautiful times, because the torturous feelings this woman had is something all of us stay-at-home moms could likely relate to, depending on how desperate we become. And society needs to understand just how challenging this job is, especially in the modern age, so that these situations are prevented. The truth is, moms that hold it together and moms that snap aren't so different. Factors that lead to fatal outcomes: extreme overwhelm, little to no support, no breaks or days off, 24/7 parenting or homemaking work schedule, little nutrition in the age of convenience foods, lack of movement, disconnection from nature, lack of community, social degradation of the stay-at-home motherhood career, meaning social value is low for this job. So you've been conditioned to believe that too, even though you might not realize it. And finally, an increasingly godless society." Close quote. One of the reasons this email stood out to me is because I've been there, or at least in the same neighborhood, mentally speaking, as this woman. I remember sobbing one day after reading a news article about a woman arrested because she had had her toddler chained up in her backyard. And I felt horrified and this terrifying understanding and empathy with the woman who was arrested, because I had a certain 2-year-old at the time that I often wanted to chain up in the backyard. To some extent, I knew this woman's pain. I was exhausted. I was doing too much, and I never felt like I was doing enough or that anything I did mattered. I didn't feel this way 100% of the time, but most days the 3 words I would use to describe how I was feeling was exhausted, overwhelmed, and inadequate. And to have an energetic, strong, and independent 3-year-old who could pull things apart way faster than I could put them back together seemed more than I could bear. And so I cried. I cried for this woman who was so desperate and so confused. I cried for her sweet child. And I cried for me and for my babies that I loved so much and so often despised and resented. It was so confusing, and I promised myself that I would look for more loving ways to parent. I understand now that I was dealing with thought problems as well as some mental health and physical health problems, but a big part of it was thought problems. I thought I was responsible for making my husband and children happy, and resented that no one seemed in charge of making me happy. I thought that my children should be different than they were. I thought they should do what I asked and know what I want. I thought my husband should be different than he was, and I even thought I should be different than I was, but I had no idea how to be different. I felt I was already being dragged behind everything in life. I thought that my energy shouldn't run out during the day, that I should be able to complete the hundreds of to-dos that I wanted to get done. I often confused my wants with my needs and made them poisonous expectations that were impossible to achieve. Some days I could do a ton of stuff and I felt like I should be able to be that way all the time. I was angry and frustrated when I just couldn't get myself to do anything. I also felt embarrassed and overwhelmed about asking for help. Who should I ask? What was it I actually needed? I didn't really know what I wanted or needed. I hadn't really stopped to consider it specifically. I just had thoughts running on replay. This is all such a mess. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so bad at this. Oh God, please help me. I'm messing everything up. albeit they were powerful. Those were just thoughts. They were thoughts that built the life I'm living today in part, but they were also changeable. And just like my body found healing through lots of TLC, so have my thoughts. If you're like me, know that most things don't fix overnight. The amount of time it takes for things to swing one way is often the amount of time, at least, that it'll take to swing the other way. So, if you are now or sometimes feel that these negative feelings outweigh your positive ones, more often than not, please, right now, give yourself a hug. Tell yourself you've got this. You are safe. In this moment, you are safe. And if there are areas in your life where you're often unsafe because of your own choices or the choices of others, let yourself know you will get help. You will figure this out. You will take care of you. You will be the one to meet your needs and your wants as well as you can. And God will fill in the gaps. But the key is changing where your head is at. I just want to mention that if you're doing thought work, if you're doing little things to take care of you, and if you're still feeling a lot of negative emotion, please know that you're just enough just as you are. And it's okay that you feel the way you do. It's a circumstance, and circumstances are temporary. It will pass as you change the way you're thinking and the way you're showing up for you. There is so much joy ahead. Don't stop now. You're on the right road. I want to read a couple more excerpts from the email from Bianca because I think she says these important things so well. And I quote, "I want to know, how come so many moms can relate to how these women struggled, how desperate they felt, how unappreciated and taken for granted they felt, how sick and unwell they were. Stay-at-home moms tend to work too hard, accept little to no help, and neglect themselves. These are the perfect circumstances which lead to death and destruction. But just because we tend to behave in a certain way, meaning over-functioning, doing everything for everyone, etc., doesn't mean that we should be behaving this way. In fact, the overworked martyr mom doesn't benefit anyone in the long run. Plus, let's be real, it just sucks. Good news, natural balance in the world is achieved when stay-at-home moms feel incredibly supported, valued, respected, and appreciated. I believe that by caring for ourselves and demanding necessary support, we can prevent situations like those in the documentary and movie. And if we can prevent death and destruction, then we can prevent burnout, overwhelm, stress, and all the negative things that lead up to it. So how do we get there? There are a few things that moms need, which are part of her self-preservation non-negotiables. Sisterhood with like-minded women, both virtual and IRL. Regular breaks every day from kids. Time spent outside of the house. Days off from parenting. Vacations. Financial support. Healthcare, dental, massage, counseling, etc. Mentors and teachers. Continued education in her career field. Parenting, living as a feminine being, natural living, religious instruction, goal setting, access to childcare assistance, confidence in her decisions, strong connection to her intuition and instincts, leadership training, self-knowledge, and self-awareness." Close quote. So my mama friends, and to all you others who have mamas they love, and also who are just human beings too, dealing with the same thoughts and feelings. Let's join together. Let's love and lift and find out how joyful life can be. Many of us know how hard it can be. So let's level up and focus on the joy now. Thanks for listening. This is Christina Stead. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a disciple of Jesus Christ. He loves me, He loves you, and He loves us. This is Just a Thought, a podcast for parents ready to change their mind and change their lives.